Welcome back. Today we're looking at a commentary video analyzing the conflict between Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens.
Right, and it's specifically focused on this idea of performative literacy versus actual intellectual logic.
It's a tricky one. The creator is trying to walk this very fine line, critiquing both of them at once. It's a real enemy of my enemy situation.
It is a high-wire act. It gets complicated fast.
It really does. So let's just jump straight in. I think the first big opportunity here is the friction between the thesis and the delivery.
Okay.
The piece has a genuinely sophisticated argument at its core about what intelligence actually is. But that argument is, well, it's buried under a ton of just repetitive ad hominem attacks.
Right. You mean all the calling her a dingbat and dummy?
Exactly. I mean, is that really fatal to the argument? I actually think in this case, yeah, it is.
Why is that?
It's internet commentary. Isn't that just part of the language?
It can be, but here's why it's a problem here. The host's strongest point is brilliant. It's that, mispronouncing legitimatize is a surface-level error.
A glitch.
Right, a glitch. But promoting a conspiracy that ice doesn't melt at 30 degrees, that's the real sign of incompetence. That distinction is the whole show.
I see.
And every time he just calls her a dummy, it dilutes that core point.
Completely. You're trying to make this high-level analytical point, but then you drop down to playground stuff. It creates this tonal conflict.
It creates fatigue, I think. You hear she's a massive dingbat over and over, and by the time you get to the actual proof the ice melting thing, which is just wild, you're already kind of checked out.
You've switched your brain to drama mode, not critical thinking mode.
And the creator knows this is the key. He literally says it's not why she's stupid. Why she is stupid is because she will create her own little fantasy world. That's the gold.
That is the gold. And it's just getting buried. So the suggestion here is to elevate the framing, prioritize the definition of stupidity over just the labeling of it.
Okay, so practically, what does that look like? Just a find and replace on the word dingbat? That could make it a little dry.
No, you don't lose the attitude. You just reorder the evidence. Think about it. Instead of opening with insults, what if you open cold with the ice melting anecdote? Lead with the knockout punch.
Exactly.
Use that specific, concrete example of scientific denial to define the terms of the argument right from the jump.
So not, she's a dingbat, but something like, Candace Owens believes ice doesn't melt at 30 degrees. This isn't a slip of the tongue. It's a rejection of reality.
Yes, that sets a totally different standard. It tells the audience we're here to critique her brain, not just make fun of how she talks.
It changes the host's role from a bully to like a judge.
Perfect analogy. You present the evidence first, the science denial, the history stuff, and then you deliver the verdict. If you want to call her a dingbat, then fine.
You've earned the insult.
You've earned it. And speaking of who controls the narrative, that leads right into the second big point, how the Fuentes clips are handled.
Oh man, this was the thing that really stood out to me. For a good few minutes, I honestly thought I was watching a Nick Fuentes video.
You're not wrong. The clips are just allowed to run for way too long. He's ranting about architecture and blitzkrieg, and it just dominates the entire segment.
And the host ends up kind of agreeing with Fuentes' conclusion, but not his method. The problem is, because Fuentes talks for so long, his method is the only thing you really hear.
That's the trap. We get this long monologue from Fuentes about his own IQ and how he's sharper and funnier, and the host is just silent. He lets Fuentes set the agenda.
And Fuentes, whether you like him or not, he's like a charismatic speaker. He has a rhythm. If you don't cut in, he'll just steamroll you.
The host ends up reacting to a reaction instead of just presenting his own thesis. So the suggestion is pretty straightforward. Use active editing.
Active editing, I like that. What does that mean in practice? Just chop the clips down?
It's more than just making them shorter. It's making them more purposeful. For example, that whole long list of mispronounced words.
It's tedious.
It really is. So instead, play maybe a 5-second burst, legitimatize, kerfuffle, and then immediately cut back to the host.
And the host says something like, Nick thinks this is why she's dumb. I disagree. Here's the real reason.
Exactly. You turn the clip into an exhibit for your argument, not the main event. You're wrestling the mic back from him.
And what about that part where Fuentes talks about his own IQ?
That's the perfect spot. Right now, the host lets him finish his whole thought about stealing her thunder.
Which just makes him sound like a narcissist.
It does, but you should be the one pointing that out. The host needs to pause that clip mid-sentence and jump in. Dissect the narcissism in real time.
So interrupt him and say, notice how he makes her mistake all about his own brilliance?
Yes. It establishes dominance over the source material. It shows the audience you're critiquing him just as much as you're critiquing her. It keeps you in the driver's seat.
Which brings us to the host himself, right? The glass house part of the video?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. This was a moment of really high vulnerability that I don't think quite landed right.
The part where he defends his own reading struggles. He says things like, "Do you even English?" and admits he stumbles over words like similarly.
Yeah, and normally vulnerability is great, but here it came across as
Defensive? Almost like a preemptive excuse.
like he's worried about the comments section.
Right.
And it risks making him look hypocritical. He's laughing at Fuentes mocking Owens for mispronouncing words, but then says, hey, it's okay when I do it. That just makes me human.
That's the disconnect, because there's a huge difference between stumbling over a tricky word and denying basic physics, but he doesn't quite connect those dots for us.
He doesn't. So the suggestion is to reframe that entire section. Don't use it as a shield. Use it as a bridge. Distinguish between human error and willful ignorance.
Turn it from a defense into an attack.
Precisely. For example, a really concrete way to rewrite that transition would be to say something like, look, I stumble over words like similarly. That makes me human.
Okay.
Candace Owens claims water doesn't freeze at 32 degrees. That makes her dangerous.
Oh, that's sharp. That lays it out perfectly. It takes the whole hypocrisy argument off the table.
It does. And he should use his own examples more effective. He mentions having a verbal tic with the word escape. That's a great point.
Right.
He can explicitly contrast that, a mechanical motor function issue, with a fundamental lack of understanding. It's not about your tongue slipping, it's about your brain not grasping a concept.
That actually makes him more authoritative, not less. It shows he's thought about the difference.
It removes the hypocrisy and makes him more relatable and credible at the same time.
Okay, so finally, let's talk about the big picture, the whole stance on Nick Fuentes.
The enemy of my enemy problem. It's giving me whiplash. 1 minute, the host is calling Fuentes a racist and an almighty dingbat, and the next, it's good on you, mate, for wrecking.
I felt that too. It's confusing. Is he laughing with the racist or at him? You can't tell.
And that weakens the moral authority of the whole critique. I mean, if you're acknowledging Fuentes as an unreliable racist narrator, you can't then use him as your primary validator. It's a messy alliance.
A toxic one. It poisons the well.
So the suggestion is to adopt a much more explicit broken clock framing. You have to be crystal clear that just because Fuentes is right about this one thing, it doesn't validate him as a person.
Sanitize the praise.
Yes, exact. But just saying a broken clock is right twice a day is a bit of a cliche.
So, how do you make it more specific here?
You have to separate the types of critiques. Highlight that Nick is attacking her for the wrong reasons.
Uh-huh.
Make the climax of the piece about that divergence. The script could literally say, Fuentes attacks Owens for being illiterate. That's a superficial, stylistic attack.
Right. It's about performance.
But the host attacks Owens for being a grifter and a narcissist. That's about substance. That's a psychological analysis.
I see. So you frame it as Nick is right that she can't say architecture, but he's totally wrong about why that matters. He thinks it's about IQ. I'm telling you it's about intellectual laziness.
Exactly. That's such a powerful way to frame it. It creates this clear separation. It says, we're both watching the same car crash, but he's laughing at the paint job and I'm analyzing the engine failure.
It elevates the host above both of them. It completely solves the moral problem because you're not siding with Fuentes at all. You're actually critiquing his critique.
You really are. It seems like the core issue in this piece is that the creator has all the right instincts, but the hierarchy of arguments is just, it's a bit of a jumble.
He's letting the source material lead him around instead of him leading it.
And that ice melting point, honestly, I can't get over it. It is such a devastating piece of evidence. The fact that it's buried is the biggest missed opportunity here.
It's the anchor for the entire argument. If you move that to the front, everything else just clicks into place.
It really does. The insults become earned judgments, the reading struggles become a point of contrast, the Fuentes clips become secondary evidence.
So let's wrap this up. What's the final game plan for the listener?
Okay, to recap, the raw energy here is great. The instincts are correct. To take it to the next level, first, reduce the repetitive name-calling.
Ditch the dingbats.
Second, tighten the editing on the Fuentes clips. Take back narrative control. Third, reframe the reading struggles admission to distinguish human error from intellectual dishonesty.
And finally, fix that enemy of my enemy framing.
Be a critic of the critic.
And seriously, that ice melting story needs to be the cold open. Make it the centerpiece of the entire video.
Absolutely. We'd encourage the creator to do a re-edit with that structure in mind and send it back. I think it could be a really definitive piece of commentary.
I agree. I think the change in tone would be night and day.
It would.
And that brings us to the end of this critique. Thanks for listening, and we'll look forward to seeing the next draft.